Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the MotUS Edge, where we talk about leadership, motivation, and all things cheer and dance business. I am Stacy Rowe, here with my favorite co-host, Casey Jones, and our guest today is the Roger Schonder from Stingray All-Stars, coach of Orange, senior all-girl, for those of you that don't know. What's up, Roger?
Hello.
Good morning. Roger and I talk every day, so this is going to be kind of normal for us. So
it's kind of a treat for me, though, because I think Roger's full of opinions and full of insight and full of thoughts on all things cheer and dance. And so I'm kind of excited to just what goes on inside the brain of Roger Schonder.
I am very opinionated.
I know.
I actually told somebody this weekend, I said, you knew what you were asking for when you asked me to come and do this, that you're going to get a bazillion opinions, whether you wanted them or not. So,
hey, I tell people all the time, I'm like, don't ask me questions you don't want answers to. Because
that was my dad's favorite. That was my dad's favorite saying.
I'm going to give you answers. If you don't want them, then don't ask. Then go find somebody else, because I'm not the person to answer those questions.
Exactly.
So
obviously, I know both of you guys pretty well, and y'all actually share a lot of similarities. So it's pretty cool.
We actually kind of do. I felt that way after I interviewed Roger for the Pioneers book. I was like, I feel like we have a lot of the same philosophies and opinions, and just kind of draw the same hard lines in the sand.
Both highly intelligent people, though. So, yeah.
And there you have it.
Really, really, really smart folks here.
Yeah. So Roger, you were going to be a pilot. Is that right? Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah.
And you just kind of took a small stopover at Stingrays, and fast forward however many years, and you're still there. I think that's kind of funny.
Yeah. I think I've got a total of 2 hours of flying in since we started Stingrays 25 years ago. So I've gotten 25 years of Stingrays and 2 hours of flying.
2 hours of flying.
At that rate, I'll have my private license in about 2100, maybe. I only had 6 hours left.
So that could be your retirement job.
Every 25 years, I get 2 hours of flying in.
And there you have it.
You can move down to the beach and fly one of those planes that pulls a little flag back and forth every day. So
I think you made a good decision. I think you made a good decision to stick with Stingrays instead of the flying. I don't know. Call me crazy.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been fun.
I would say the cheerleading industry, I couldn't imagine the cheerleading industry without Roger Schonder, to be honest. So I think a lot of people would be grateful that you stayed in cheerleading. So there you go. Not to get all sappy on this Wednesday morning, but
I think a lot of people envision the cheerleading industry without me, and how awesome that would be.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all.
I don't agree with that. We talk about this sometimes, but there are many trends that, and that's the thing. I don't know that the Stingray All-Stars are known to be trendsetters, but the reality is I think we are, and I think a lot of that is in large part due to Roger and his success with his teams and the way his teams look. And I don't know. That's something that I'm really proud of, is to be able to set positive trends. And I think we have been able to maintain a good, clean, all-American look. And like I said, much of that credit is due to Roger and his vision.
I agree. So, Roger, I'm going to ask you a boring question. I'm sure you get asked a million times, but this will kick off our conversation into the mind of Roger Schonder. What do you feel like right now, today in 2026, is kind of broken in the cheerleading industry?
Good question. Honestly, I think there's layers to everything. So I think that if you ask 100 people in cheerleading, 95 of them or 98 of them are going to say cost. And then, well, why is the cost? And that's the question I ask. Why is the cost going up? And then what are all these factors that go into it? And yeah, there's inflation, all that kind of stuff. It's not because this company's greedy. And then I start looking into everything, and we have way too many divisions. We have way too many divisions. Too many teams are going and doing a dance recital by themselves at these major events. Yeah, there's a difference between going to the one day local competition, and there just doesn't happen to be somebody in the whatever division. But when you go to an event that's got 1,000 teams and you're by yourself, that's a problem. And so what we've done, and not pointing fingers because I've been a part of some of these decisions in the past when I was on the USASF board, but we make a division. Well, it's not fair for the big teams to compete against the little teams. So we got to make them big and little. It's not fair for co-ed to compete against all girls. So we separate those out. Well, it's not fair for a big co-ed to compete against a small co-ed. So we split it out. Well, it's not fair for all these people on this co-ed team. Well, they're different levels. So we need more levels. Well, different ages. We got all these different ages. Well, we need different ages, different levels, different genders, different sizes, different this. Well, my gym's not as big as their gym. So we need a whole different set of divisions for that. Well, this competition company over here, they allow bigger age ranges. So we need to make another age group that's the exact same, but just slightly different. So we can have more age ranges on this one team and then, everybody is in this scare tactic of, if you do this one thing, it's going to shut my business down. And so event producers, gyms alike say the same thing, and if I can't have this one 20-year-old boy on my senior co-ed team, then we don't have a co-ed team and we can't go to Worlds and we're going to go out of business. And so then we make a rule for this one boy on this one team at this one gym in this one section of the country. And next thing you know, we have 200 and something divisions. Well, 200 divisions means we have 200 champions, which means we got to have 200 sets of jackets and trophies and banners and medals. Well, then they can't all be a judge on the same panel. So now we have to have more judging panels. It takes up longer part of the day. People got to be there longer. We got to fly more people in, more hotel rooms, more of this, more of this. And I think that, when I first started, it was just youth, junior, and senior. And then senior was split in all girl and co-ed. And it didn't matter what it was. It was small co-ed versus large co-ed. I don't think that's right. But I think where we're at now, you have all these flex divisions and this open series, and you have the USASF, and then you have the United, and then you have all these different things that create all these different sub categories of a cheerleading division. And it just is create. And I think just to keep up with it, and the amount of I guess an admin work that it takes to do all that stuff just takes more time for everybody. And then I think that is a significant contributor to how much things cost. And I think that if you look at a division that had 15 years ago, there might be 20 teams in a division. Well, now they're going to split that at a competition 5 different ways. And that's not even getting to the D1, D2. That's just getting into which you pick it, D1 or D2. They're going to take 20 teams and they're going to split it this way, then this way, and this way. And now you have 6 divisions of 3 teams. And it just really creates, I think, a lot of confusion. And I think that is a significant contributor to costs going up. And I don't think that, I don't sit there and think at a competition, wow, there's 207 divisions here. That's 207 banners. I wonder how much that makes. Might be a drop in the bucket, but it just seems like that's one of the things that contributes to the rising cost and the divisions of everything. And I was at Jam Fest this past weekend, and we watched one of our teams, and we're walking out, and the announcer says, next up in the D2 small junior flex B division. I'm like, man, that is a lot of subcategories. Like, why can't it just be small junior too? Call it a day, but we have to separate it out that many different ways of what we've got going on. And listen, I do this every day. I can't imagine, and I don't know what's going on. What about the parent that's sitting there trying to see, trying to understand? I mean, that's to me is what our issue is.
That is very interesting. I don't know that anyone has ever. Yeah, that's not something you hear a lot, that the amount of divisions are driving the cost up. But you're absolutely correct, because that is things that people don't man, all of those medals and all of those jackets, and I've dipped my toe into the competition business a little bit and get to see the cost of those things. But man, they're an extreme part of it.
I think two things on that. There has to be a happy medium to some degree. I mean, I think that in order for the sport to grow, and I don't know that we are on the same page on this, Roger, but I think in order for the sport to grow, there's got to be a place for newer, younger locations, smaller areas, to feel some sort of success. Now, I also feel like those gyms should choose better competition schedules, maybe, if they feel like they're going places, getting their butt kicked. Obviously going to Jam Fest or Cheersport or Dallas or any 300 or 5 plus event up into the 1,000 teams. Probably your first couple of years as a new gym, like, you don't want to expose your kids to that because they're not ready. They got to feel some sense of accomplishment to want to continue doing the sport. If the kids are going and getting their butts kicked every week because they just can't keep up, like, I mean, Casey and I talk about this all the time on here, even freaking tiny level 1, like, you can't get a 5-year-old off the street and put them on your basic lower level tiny level 1 team and expect to do really well, because the gyms that are doing really well have had those kids already from age 3, and they've got a full team of tiny level 1 5-year-olds that have been at it for 3 years, and they're like little phenoms, and so it's just hard. So I think we got to find that balance. But I also think the cost, is attributed to some degree in what, the people want. I find, and I'm sure you guys experience this too, but like, the customer wants, 8 gajillion rhinestones on their kid's uniform. They don't want to pay $700 for it, but they don't want the uniform that doesn't have any rhinestones on it either, that costs, $150 or $200, or they want to have, new $150 practice wear for Worlds, or their postseason event, which I think is silly. They want those things. And if they don't get them, the parents, I feel like, sometimes are complaining about that. So they want all of the high dollar, awesome things, but they want to pay like, bargain basement prices for them. And I just don't know that that's, realistic. So I think that's where people need to check themselves too. It's like, we could control the cost some degree, but
you're right. A lot of it's a choice. We keep
driving it up. Yeah, we keep driving it up with, right. We don't, to me, Stingrays could go on the floor, Orange could go on the floor and compete in a t-shirt and a pair of shorts, and they would still be incredible. Now, I'm not suggesting that they do that, but I'm saying that they could, at the end of the day, they could come in and practice in a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. We used to wear Sophies that cost $5. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and that's kind of one of the things, and we ask ourselves all the time, because you're exactly right. That is what, the customers want. And there is a certain rhetoric out there of it's too expensive or prices are going up, and it is expensive. But people are paying it, and people want, some of the
right. And they don't want to be a part of the program that's wearing t-shirts and Sophie shorts still, because that's not good enough.
Well, I have a different take. And this might be dangerous, but
no, bring it.
I don't know that it is too expensive, and I don't know that it's too expensive or it needs to go, prices go up, any of that kind of thing. And I'm sure that anybody that listens to it probably thinks that I'm crazy for what I'm saying right now. But let's compare it to something else. Okay, so I'm going to go to this. I'm going to take my kid to a 2-day, and I've heard this since I've been coaching cheerleading since 1994. Man, we spent X amount of dollars for my kid to go out on the floor for 5 minutes. We spent $100 for my kid to they 2.5 minutes on Saturday and Sunday, and that was $100. So that cost me $20 a minute. I've heard that for 35 years. Or 30 years, whatever. But the issue is, like, let's think about what we do. So your kid could be the 100-meter dash. Right. That's 11 seconds. The cheerleading routine's way longer than 11 seconds. Okay. Well, what if they're a marathoner? Well, that's like 4 hours, but you're going to go run the marathon. Like,
you're paying the same whether you're running the marathon or you're running the 100-meter.
Well, but if you're going to go run the whatever marathon, I don't know. I mean, there's a registration fee of, depending on how big it is. I mean, could be $200-$300 to go run a marathon on a street that's already there, that you could run the exact same course the next day for free. Like, is a cheerleading event expensive? and then, I look at all these other sports and, people compare it to a football game. We have a 1 hour football game. We're going to play 4 quarters. Yeah. But what if your kid's the kicker?
Well, that's the thing.
He might step out on the field 4 times.
I agree with you. And I think that's the kind of the point that I'm trying to make is that the customer, in my opinion, the consumer has driven the market to some degree to where we are today, because we used to have competitions in high school gymnasiums that didn't cost as much because they didn't cost as much to put on. And they used to show up in their uniforms without, 11 bajillion rhinestones on them. And they still did a routine, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It was still pretty good. It still got all the stuff done. But today, could you imagine taking one of your teams to a competition at a high school that was like a legit competition, in a uniform that didn't have a rhinestone on it? You know what I'm saying? Like most customers are not happy with that. That's not the product that they want. That's kind of poo-poo. And they've driven it into convention centers and big cities and places, which is going to drive. I mean, that drives the cost up. That it just is what it is.
Sure, but I mean, for Stingrays to go to, West High School, and for us to do a showcase at that high school, we can't fit in there. Just our program. We would be there for an entire 6 hours because there's one floor. We don't have 2 floors. There's one warm-up room. There's not enough seating for our parents and the rest of the kids. I mean, we have 1,000 kids in Marietta, so you assume 2 parents come watch their kid. I mean, you can't fit it in there, and so then that's why it gets driven. But we want to compete against somebody, so ATA is a gym in Atlanta that's big. So hey, let's have a dual meet like we used to do in high school for track. And ATA and Stingrays, we're going to go at it here at this high school. I mean, it would be an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. event for just our 2 gyms, and to be able to get through to do it.
Which I feel like that's not the norm everywhere, but I do hear what you're saying. The point I'm making is just we have, as a collective, have driven the industry into the direction that it's gone in. So we can't now complain that it's too expensive. And to your point, my son plays club soccer, and we had to compete. Listen to me. He had a match on Saturday in New Orleans, and then I had to rent a car. We had to fly to New Orleans. I had to rent a car in New Orleans and then drive to Mississippi so he could do a match the next day on Sunday in Mississippi, and then fly home from Mississippi for a high school soccer player.
Did you know what time they were playing on the second day, or do they let you, because that's one of the things I hear about, like baseball tournaments. We play on Saturday at 8 a.m. and if we win, we're going to play on Sunday. We just don't know what time yet. It could be 8 p.m.
And may not even know where the park is.
And it's across the state of Georgia somewhere. And, and so I think
I love that. We come to Atlanta to play a lot, and it just says Atlanta, and the fields could literally be an hour and a half apart. And, but most of the time, Roger, we do know. It just depends. In that particular example, we knew what day and time he was playing the next day. But sometimes you're right. Sometimes it's a tournament type of situation, and you don't know. You don't know when they're going to play on the last day until everything gets done. It is what it is, and that's how it goes. And it's not really, honestly, that I don't know that it's really that much cheaper, if any cheaper at all. Like, I feel like these sports are they're that expensive. And again, we choose to put our kid on this team. He could play on a different team where he's just playing some soccer around here locally in Knoxville, but that's not what we want. That's not what our kid wants. So we're doing the club soccer.
Yeah. And that's the point too, is, one of the things I was going to say is, if you compare cheerleading to soccer or lacrosse or football or whatever, and then, football is X number of dollars. See how much cheaper it is? Yeah, but it's 3 months. We're 12 months. And then, but then are you also counting, because if you want to be good at football, you're just not playing football during the football season. You've got trainers. You've got if you're going to play quarterback, I'm not even talking about the guy who's going to play at Georgia or Texas, or the guy who just wants to play on his high school team and maybe get looked at to play college football. He's got a quarterback coach. He's got speed and agility. He's got a strength coach, and they're doing that stuff year round. And then he's probably also running track to make him better for football, which then does that. And then they got 7-on-7 drills. Then they got to go to camps and all those kind of things.
So let's dig into that for just a second. I mean, obviously I know we talk about cheerleading and dance on this podcast generally, but seeing how we are crossing into other sports, what are your thoughts on, so take that example, the quarterback and all the training that they're doing and all these high school kids. I don't know that it's affecting cheer as much right now, but maybe I'm wrong, Roger. Maybe you'll have a different opinion. But now those kids are trying to go to college, and a lot of them, they're not even getting recruited anymore because of the NIL stuff and the way that the kids are able to just transfer all back and forth and all over the place. I mean, look at Indiana, just won. Like, I've never heard the Hoosiers associated with football ever in my life, and now all of a sudden they just won. And that right. And so, but that's not freshmen. There's no freshmen on that team out there experiencing that. There's no kids being, getting any experience on the field like it used to be coming out of high school. So what do you think that's going to do, in the future? And does that affect, like, all these kids are, they're doing all of these things. I feel like because yes, they want to be good in their school, but a lot of them want to go on and do more after. And I don't know, what those opportunities are going to look like for those kids.
Well, I think what you see is this really started happening when I was in high school. Is when I was growing up, you played football.
And you were just in
season.
High school a couple years ago, right, Roger?
Yeah, like I just graduated. But
Me too.
Same.
You played football in football season, and then you would either wrestle or basketball in the winter,
right.
And then you would play baseball or run track in the spring, and then in the summer you'd hang out by the pool. Well, then when I got to high school, some of the kids who were, I'm okay at football, but I really like baseball. So they started playing fall ball. And so they quit playing football. Well, then they were way better at baseball than I was because they had been playing baseball all year. And so then you had these 3-sport studs that were now like, that started going away. So people had to start specializing. Well, I see that these guys that are above me are specializing. I'm going to go ahead and specialize now. So I'm going to quit playing football in middle school. And so then they play baseball year round. And then it just trickled down. And it's the same thing in cheerleading. And it's, it depends on what you want to do. I mean, do you want to cheer on the sideline for your football team on Friday nights and like have fun and maybe learn about handspring? Then there is a spot for that.
Sure.
If you want to be a world champion, you want to go to the University of Alabama or Ole Miss or Kentucky or Central Florida and be a collegiate national cheerleading champion. You want to go to Team USA. There's not a kid on Team USA all girl that picked up cheerleading halfway through high school. I'd be willing to bet. I'd be willing to bet a significant amount of money that there's that kid that just, this cheerleading thing looks pretty cool. I might try this out my sophomore year.
I was going to say, let's challenge anybody out there. Roger had said he'd be willing to bet a significant amount of money. So if there is a cheerleader on Team USA that picked it up in the middle of high school,
hit me up. I got 50 cents. That's a significant amount of money to me.
There might be one. It's such interesting topics. I mean, I've got a lot of kids. We played a lot of sports. My boys played travel baseball, and I think one thing that things are changing, but, like Stacy alluded to, there are choices, and one thing I think we all seek for our children and we want for young athletes is professional coaching. And I know that's one thing we pride ourselves on at Stingray All-Stars, and we've got professional cheerleading coaches. It's their job. It's their career. It's what they do all day, every day. And just like anybody else in their profession, they want to be paid for that. They've got to be able to earn a living. So, and that also drives cost up. That is a thing in youth sports that the consumer wants. I want my kid to be not just coach daddy ball, not the guy that watched the baseball game. I want a professional coach. And those are also things that can drive the price up. But I will argue that that's going to get better coaching, safer coaching, and just a better overall experience for the athletes, no matter what they're doing. So,
I agree.
And I think cheerleading is catching up to that, right? So I think that's been a thing that's happened in other sports, and I think cheerleading's catching up to it. And and I'm assuming this exact same conversation happens in the baseball world and the football world and all that kind of stuff as to what they're doing, and to go back to your question, where do I see it going? It's with all the you were talking about NIL and transferring and these older kids, well, they're more experienced. They're
right.
And
how do the younger ones get the experience? Because they're getting overlooked now because of the way that the system is changing.
Or it's changing. They're not necessarily getting overlooked. Now you have to prove yourself, right? So they have these camps that they go to in the summer, and these people that are talent evaluators, not college football coaches, these talent evaluators look and they're like, well, this guy's, he runs this fast and he's this big and he's 4 stars. But now he's not really watched him play necessarily, or he's watched him be this man among boys because of the division of football they play in. But he hasn't been proven against other college athletes, right? So then this kid who is 20 years old, who's played 2 years of lower level college ball, has proven himself. I mean, I'm probably taking a chance on that guy more than I am this high school senior who has been just running amok among all these little kids because he's just bigger, faster, stronger. And I see that in cheerleading too. I mean, we were talking about that the other day. I mean, is the 17-year-old girl base better than the 13-year-old girl base? Good chance.
She's got more experience.
Well, she's 4 years older. She's stronger. She's,
and I guess that's my question is like, how does the 17-year-old eventually get experience when, they're 18 coming out of high school, going into college, and they're not going to have the same opportunities that kids did 5 years ago because you've got those older kids that are moving around everywhere. So how does that kid in 2 or 3 years get experience to get on, so maybe they go to a smaller school, they get their experience there, and then they transfer to the school that they want to go to. So is that what is that going to be the trend?
I think I'm going to argue that the 17-year-old has now been put on a level playing field, right? So if we're talking about football, a lot of these kids that are 4 and 5 stars have been designated that since their freshman year in high school. So they've been put on this pedestal since they're in the 9th grade. Meanwhile, this kid who maybe can't afford to go to the camp over the summer to get some stars, he's just out there playing. He goes to a small school, like I'll use Kennesaw State, which is right here, or Kennesaw State's growing, but it's right next to us. But anyway, they go to Kennesaw State and then they shine there. Well, hey, who is this kid? Now that kid has an opportunity who has traditionally been overlooked because he wasn't 6'2", 225 pounds in the 9th grade and was this just the biggest player on the field from the time he was stepped on the field, right? So, and you see these stories a really good bit, like they're running back at Missouri a couple of years ago. He was incredible. He was All-American. He came from some Division III school. He was like 22 years old. He was really good. This guy from Arizona State, kind of the same thing. The quarterback at Ole Miss this year, he was a Division III quarterback last year. And then, so now he's going to go to the NFL. And he didn't even get a college scholarship offer. I think the Tennessee quarterback this past year was a very similar situation. He was riding a train to San Francisco Community College because that was the only place that he could play football. So I think clearly he's good enough to play major college football if he's the starting quarterback at Tennessee. But those kids are the ones that have been overlooked, in my opinion. So then I think what it's doing is now it's leveling it out, and you get to see some of these kids that you wouldn't necessarily see because they've been brought up since they were in 9th grade that this is going to be this 5-star who you want. And then
so that's a positive that could come out of it for sure. I see that side.
If you look at, like, if you ever watch a football game on what, I don't know if it's Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, where the players come in and they announce themselves and they'll say, John Smith, Wichita State, whatever. They say their college, and the amount of those guys that are not from schools that you've heard of is pretty staggering. These guys in the NFL are playing college football. Well, how did they get to the NFL from there? Well, what happened between high school and that got them to the NFL, and so not everybody hits their growth spurt at 16. Some of them hit it at like 19. And so
I think one thing, I mean, you and I over the years, Roger, have had a lot of conversations with athletes that want to go on to college. And I know one thing that I always ask, hey, what's your number one priority? Do you want to cheer or do you want to college? So like, and there's not a wrong answer. Sometimes the parents look at that as like,
college ought to be the answer, but
maybe, but that's the thing. We would also argue that college isn't for everyone. So like, my goal is to be a veterinarian, and I want to go to Auburn University because they have an excellent vet school, and I'd
like to cheer.
And I'd like to cheer.
Right.
Okay, that lets me know that it's way different than, man, I just want to cheer somewhere. So if I just want to cheer somewhere is the road to a college education, I don't care. Like whatever, whatever can.
Which honestly, Casey, that's kind of where we're at with my son. Like he wants to go into business, which you can do anywhere, So because of that, it's very non-specific. And he's like, I want to find a good school that's a good home for me to go play soccer. Like that's what we are looking for him. That also has a decent, business program, right? Which shouldn't be hard to find. Where my her major is very specific. And so there's only a few schools. So if she were trying to do gymnastics, let's say, they'd have to happen to have gymnastics at the school where they had her degree.
Right. But there again, some of these athletes, they may go to a smaller program or a program that isn't competitive or a program that doesn't even have competition. And they gain experience and then they get a look and then they have an opportunity to move to something that is more competitive if they choose to. So I think the point is, whether it's football, baseball, whatever, the deal is like, in order to play, you got to keep playing. So if you ever want that shot, I would kind of argue the Indiana thing shows that more people have a shot. There were not all the 3, 4, 5 stars on that team.
That was some crazy stuff.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you.
But those players hung out like they played football and they kept playing until they got an opportunity. And then I think what that team showed was, experience can beat young talent. So, an older, experienced athlete can oftentimes beat out a young, super talented, inexperienced athlete.
You know what, gentlemen, that I am really most disappointed about is that
the Eagles.
Yes, my Eagles lost in the playoffs, and I don't have any teams to root for, and I'm not going to like any of the teams. And it's a sad day.
I'm talking to two college guys, though. We didn't get
Casey,
to watch
I think
NFL.
you need to. I know you guys are college guys, and I'm an NFL girly, but it's okay.
Is it time for my dad joke?
I think it's time for you to cheer me up with a laugh because I'm sad about my Eagles.
All right,
go Birds!
We get all these dad jokes submitted, and y'all keep them coming. Keep sending them to us. But I actually got this one. I was watching TV the other night, and I was like, "Man, that'd be a great dad joke." So I pulled it off of a show that I was watching. So, and I think some of you can probably get the answer. So, how do you find Will Smith in the snow? How do you find Will Smith in the snow? Follow the Fresh Prince.
I was totally trying to think like all the roles that he played, all the songs that he sung. I'm like, which one makes the most sense? Roger, stone faced. He's like, yeah, that's dumb.
So he's doing a new show. It's on Discovery Channel. He's
For those of you that are just listening, I urge you to go to YouTube and just scroll to this part and just look at Roger's face after Casey tells that joke because it's great.
That may have been my greatest dad joke ever. I'd hate to see his face on some of the others. So anyway, guys, if you've got a better dad joke than that, send them our way. We'd love to hear them. You can email those to Stacy at Join MotUS. That's STACY, or send us a direct message on our social media at Join MotUS. So we're going to take just a second and tell you a little bit about CX Brands.
Get ready for an event experience that's all about you. CX Brands brings the energy with 4 unique competitions: the Cheer Expo, Cheer X, Excite, and Excel. 16 events across the country, each designed to deliver excellence from start to finish. When you think cheer events, think CX Brands. Find your event now at thecxbrands.com. That's THECXBRANDS.com. Experience excellence. Experience CX Brands. All right, Roger. So we do some rapid fire questions on the show. It's kind of like a this or that type of thing to help our listeners get to know our guests. So I am going to take you through those questions today. Are you ready?
Yeah, I am. I do want to, we were talking about something.
Oh,
and
you have a point.
I do want to come back to it at some point.
Well, you can come back to it right now, and then we'll do our questions.
We can come back to it right now. So you were asking about kids going to college just to cheer, and what should the point be? And so, should they be going to college to cheer? Or should they be going to college to get a degree? And so, and I think this is something that is a changing of the times. When I first started in All Stars, there was, I don't know, 25. Say there was 2 gyms per state in the country. There was 100 All-Star gyms in the state, in the country, which I think that's way more than what really was around. I think there was probably 50 All-Star gyms. Each gym maybe had 2 or 3 teams. So in the All-Star world, you had 100, 150 teams total in the whole All-Star world. That's all there was. So there wasn't really an opportunity to do cheerleading after college. Fast forward, how many gyms are in the country now?
Yeah, tons.
Thousands. Each gym has 4, 5, 6 teams. You know, we've got thousands upon thousands of teams. Those teams need coaches. We also have, when I first started cheerleading in college, when I was at the University of Georgia, no one had an all-girl team. None of the big schools had an all-girl team. It would be like some small schools sporadic around the country. I mean, that division at College Nationals was tiny. Now everybody has all-girl college cheerleading. That's a huge difference than what it was when I was coming up through college. And then there was no open teams at all. That wasn't even a thing that existed yet. Now there's open teams everywhere, and you have the professional league, which that's small now, but it's going to grow. And so I think you can go to college and your degree being cheerleading and degree to go because you want to further your cheerleading knowledge to be able to come back into to be a coach, to be a gym owner, to be a choreographer, to produce music, to be a uniform person, to do,
Roger, that's actually an excellent kind of things. Yeah, that's actually an excellent point, I feel like.
And so, I mean, unintentionally, my degree was in cheerleading, and it was because I have a finance degree, and I understand money, and I understand finances, and I understand all that kind of stuff. But when I had the opportunity, I was doing cheerleading. Me and my friends, we would go stunt, and we would get done stunting, and then we would go to practice, and then we get done with practice, we'd go eat together, and we'd talk about some cheerleading, and then we would go stunt somewhere else. And so I spent my time doing cheerleading. There was not really the opportunities of choreography and those kind of things. But listen, these people now that are the specialists in the cheerleading world, choreographers, music producers, stunt, and it's gotten even more specialized. There's people that will just go choreograph a pyramid. There are people that will just come teach you stunt technique.
Yep.
They make a good living. They make a great living. And, so like I personally, there are people that take pictures and put it on Instagram, and that's their job. And that wasn't a thing when I was in high school. You couldn't make a living of taking a selfie and you just see your bank account get bigger. And now there's people that do that. So I think that's a sign of the world is changing and the times are changing. And so maybe me going to the University of wherever helps me get to, I want to go to Alabama because I want to cheer on Alabama. They got a good football team. I can also get what I need to, because I want to go be on Team USA. And then after I do Team USA, I want to try out for one of these PCL teams. I want to be a coach. I want to be a gym owner. I think there is a lot of different opportunities that did not exist 30 years ago.
That's an excellent point.
That people have a viable option to go when they're choosing their college. Not if you want to be a vet, like what Casey was saying. I mean, that's a different thing. But I think there is an unofficial cheerleading degree that you can get. Anyway,
that's such.
I think that's a really good point.
I know when I cheered in college, that was the thing that kept me in college. It wasn't some passion to be something. I just, I did okay at school, but it wasn't my passion, But man, I wanted to keep my grades up. I was going to go to class because I wanted to be eligible to cheer, because just like you said, that was my day. Like as soon as we got out of class, I think at Georgia Southern, we practiced twice a week was our official practice, but we practiced every single day. And then after practice, we all went to Gold's Gym. And then after that, we all went to dinner. And then sometimes after that, we'd go right back over to the gym and stunt some more. So you're exactly right. And I was learning way more about cheerleading than I was about accounting. But, luck, whatever, God's mercy, able to turn that into a career. So, and there weren't many opportunities back then. And now there are a tremendous amount. And that's the thing. We want those opportunities because not only have we grown the sport, the reality is, and some people don't like this part about it, but sport is business, and it doesn't matter what sport it is, baseball, football, whatever. And business can be a good thing because it creates opportunities for those that play the sport to continue to do something that they love. Because our body, like I can't go beyond the pro league. Number one, I was never good enough. But even if I was, I'm not going to still be cheering at 55 years old. So I think Roger brings up a great point of, through the sport and through the expansion of business, and it gives an opportunity for the athletes to continue on. And I think the Pro Cheer League is one more example of that. It's an opportunity for athletes to continue on and then to start to make money in the field that they love.
I agree. And for the record, I was more coming from a mama's point of view where like you can't just go to school and play your sport. You have to actually take some classes and care about what you're doing. Care about what you're doing in your classes as well. Whether it's business, whether it's whatever. That was my point. I want to make sure,
It shouldn't be we all know the old school cheerleading days. I'm not even sure you had to be enrolled at the school to be on some of the competitive teams. It should not be that. So let's get that. Yeah. Absolutely.
But I think that's a great point. All right, Roger, are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Okay, I picked some funny ones just for you because I know you're going to really love it. You're going to stare at me stone-faced and be like, really?
Why are you asking me these questions?
All right, here we go. All right. Would you rather walk on stilts or ride a unicycle?
Ride a unicycle.
Would you rather play the air guitar or the air drums?
Guitar.
Would you rather eat soup for breakfast or cereal for dinner?
Cereal.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Top Gun or Days of Thunder?
Top Gun.
I love it. I got to know, why a unicycle? I'm just curious because I'm sure you've got some deep thought about that.
I've actually ridden a unicycle.
Oh my God, have you? That's funny.
Yeah, not far from here to there.
Could you do it? I tried. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, the stilts I couldn't do.
That's funny.
Right. Roger and I at one time were very into cycling, and we would go and do some different century rides, which are 100-mile rides. And I'll never forget doing one up north of us in Cartersville, and there was a guy that did the century ride on a unicycle. So he rode his unicycle 100 miles.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
That's the interesting thing about a unicycle is there's no coasting. So if you stop pedaling, the bike stops. And so, or the unicycle stops.
I mean, that makes sense. I don't think I knew that. Like, I don't think I ever thought about that. But as you're saying that, I'm like, oh my God, that's true. Like you have to pedal the entire time.
Yeah. So what's, the thing about riding a bike is you struggle going up the hill, and then you can coast coming down the hill. Not on a unicycle, you can't. Your feet go faster.
Wow.
Really hard.
It's not an easy thing.
I kind of have a little desire to ride a unicycle now. I'm not going to, but I mean, I'm kind of like, that might be interesting to try.
Yeah.
All right. We have a question from Ryan who lives in Maine. And Roger will let you answer. How do you get everyone to buy into your culture? Coaches, athletes, and parents, like the whole package. How do you get everybody to buy into whatever your culture is? What are your thoughts there?
You have to be willing to make tough decisions, and you have to be willing to let people go. And the first thing is you say up front, this is how we do it here. It's not for everybody, and that's okay. We're not mad at you. And it may not be for you today, but it may be for you in 2 years from now. And in 2 years from now, come on back. Well, we're open to that, but we're going to show up to practice on time. We're going to wear the right thing. We're going to present ourselves a certain way, and we're going to work hard. And if you can't do that, this isn't the team. This isn't the gym. This isn't for you. And what a lot of people do, and what I hear a lot is, or heard a lot, I don't really, I haven't been to a coaches conference in a while, so I haven't heard it recently, but we're so scared of, a lot of times the coaches / gym owner are held hostage by a parent, by a kid. Well, this parent does all of this for our gym. This kid is my last pass. This person is, they are whatever they are, seems like it's so important. This coach does so much for our gym. And we've had plenty of coaches come and go, and parents and kids, and we've had coaches leave and we've had coaches come back. We've had kids leave and come back. And, it's a consistent thing of, we're going to do it this way, whatever your way is, it doesn't matter. But if you want your culture to be a certain way, you can only let people in that want to be a part of that culture. And when people come in and they say, hey, you need to do it this way. You need to change this. You need to do this. Well, that's not how we're going to do it here. They may do it like that over there, and that's cool. We're not mad at you, but here, this is the way we're going to do it. Right. And then, and you will, can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. It's kind of one of those things. So you're going to have people that say, this isn't for me, and that's okay. And then, and I know that I can probably hear some people that are cringing when I say that, and they're like, hey, we only have 27 kids in our all-star program. Right. And if you got rid of the one problem, you would have 26 kids that were so all into what you're doing and so appreciate everything that you do. They're probably going to tell a couple of friends, and that one person may be preventing you from growing. That one person may be preventing these kind of things. So it's just, you kind of got to draw that hard line.
I think the key that you said there, I mean, you said a lot of great things actually, but I think the key too is first deciding who you are, what you stand for. I agree with you. Like my expectation was, you have to show up on time to practice. And what does on time mean? On time doesn't mean you're running in the door, putting your shoes on, putting your hair up in a ponytail. On time means you're 5 minutes early, like ready to go, like dressed and ready to get started. But that doesn't mean that has to be your culture. You just have to decide what you're going to be. So everybody could be different. What you're going to be is going to be what you're going to be. Decide what that is and stick to it ultimately, I think. So that's the first step. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that's where gyms, sometimes they're like, oh, I need to go do this over here. I need to be like that over there. And they kind of waffle back and forth as to what they're going to be, and that's where they lose customers.
Well, yeah. And if we touched on this earlier, but like, if you want to be the fun, we're just going to have fun. We're going to be the community center type thing. And we're going to do arts and crafts on Sunday at the end of practice. Cool. There is a place for that. There is a place for it and whatever. However, when you go to a competition and then you don't do well, that's not our fault. That's the culture and that you chose.
Agree. And I feel like that goes back to as well, like being smart about choosing your competition schedule, and sending your teams to the right places that fit your culture and the type
Correct.
of business that you're trying to build. And there's nothing wrong with that. I tell people all the time, like, find your people. You just need to be who you are and find your people, and you will find your people. And not everybody's your people, and that's okay. That's okay.
So, well, I'll compare it to
Casey,
the
we're not going to
gym.
let you have a word in edgewise.
I'll compare it to the workout gym. So you have Planet Fitness, where I think one day a week they bring pizza in and for their members. So,
wait, is that a thing for real?
I'm pretty sure they bring in pizza, but then you have Crunch Fitness, where they're yelling at you if you don't put the weights back, and you got to keep everything clean. There's a gym, and it used to be, I don't even know if it's still around, Casey, you may know, but Coffee's gym, which was, I don't know if there was maybe like one light on over in the corner. There was no weights on any rack. Everything was just thrown on the floor. You would go over to some guy and he's eating a bag of Doritos and drinking a 2-liter Coke before he's going to go and bench press 500 or 600 pounds. Well, if you're a Planet Fitness person and you walk into Coffee's, I'm sure you're appalled. But if you walked into if you're a Coffee's person and you walk into Planet Fitness, you are also appalled, right? So, but you got to go to wherever is your thing, and neither one of them are wrong. It's just kind of what you want to do, and if you want to go and, hey, I'm gonna move around a little bit, grab a slice of pizza on the way out, then cool,
You can get $1.29, a cup of coffee at the gas station for $1.29, or you can pay $7 at Starbucks. They're still same cup of coffee, still same caffeine.
Yeah. But the thing that people love to do, I'm going to choose to go through the Starbucks instead of go through the gas station. But then I'm going to gripe about that. You can't gripe if it's a choice.
Right.
I don't know. The thing I wanted to jump in and say, the biggest takeaway I had from what Roger said was, you can't lead or make decisions based on fear. They never work out well, and
agree.
That's a big thing. I mean, I learned that from Roger, because I was trying to do things based on fear, and I would get so caught up in, oh my goodness, this one kid's going to leave, or this one coach is going to leave, and they're going to take 4 with them. But what experience has shown is we make decisions based on what's best for the kids, what's best for the program as a whole. Then, I'll never forget this. We had a pretty prominent coach, and this was many years ago, and this was a good person. The guy's, he just wasn't a really good fit for our program. And based on fear, I allowed him to stay far too long, and I was scared that kids were going to leave. And then it got to a breaking point, and we decided to part ways with this coach, and they left. And sure enough, 5 or 6 kids left and quit teams and moved on down the road. And I don't even know the number, but 3 to 4 times 5 came back due to, because the issues there. So, and then who knows how many other kids never came back, based off of that. So, you've got to have whatever it takes to be able to make decisions based on what's best for your program and what fits the culture, not what's best for the one kid that's on the verge of leaving.
And I will say this too, before we wrap up, I will say this too, because I've experienced this as well. Culture shift, if you haven't had a solid culture and you're trying to build a culture, that's a culture shift. And so you're going to lose some people in that process as well. So you have to be prepared for that also, or if you have a transition, in a facility or something like that, you'll have a culture shift. And anytime there's a culture shift, you're going to have some people that shake out. You're going to have some new people that come and try it. But as long as you stay true to the culture, in the long run, you'll eventually grow and be better off.
Well,
I feel like
25 years ago when Roger and I were starting this thing and making up things as we went, because there was no manual, there was no MotUS, there was no help. It was just like, all right, we're trying to start a business here. What are we doing? Culture wasn't a key word. It wasn't something we talked about. It wasn't like, it is a very popular word in today's society, in today's business, but it just wasn't anything we talked about. So I don't know that we realized we had a good culture until there were periods of having a bad culture,
Right.
and then that's when it came like, man, this, this is something we need to address and something we need to keep in check, our culture. But we didn't know that until it was bad, so.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say another piece to that too is also knowing what you are, right? Like, so listen, how do you get people to buy into what's going on with your gym? You got to know what you are. So if you have a bunch of beginners and you're level 1 and 2 kids, trying to turn that into a world's team, probably not the best idea. People aren't going to buy into that culture. But if you go and you pick where you can be successful and doing things where you can be successful division wise, where you can be successful competition wise, that kind of thing, then people also buy into you doing what you're doing. So a lot of times you got to leave your ego out of the way and, kind of focus on hey, this is what we got. This is where we're at. This is what we're going to do.
I am super excited, Casey, to share. We have a review today. So thank you, Kim, for tuning in each week and letting us know that you enjoy the podcast. She said that she's used our advice on preparing for competitions, and it made a huge difference in her season so far this year. So that's super exciting. Thanks, Kim, for sharing your review with us. And we have a giveaway today. So if you are still with us and you are still listening, you can win a free My Cheer or My Dance journal. If you are still listening, go to our social media post about today's podcast and comment I love cheer or I love dance, whichever one it is, and you could win a free journal by SR Fabrico. If you've never heard of My Cheer or Dance journal, they are 52 weeks of growth and gratitude for athletes to track their progress throughout the season, which is pretty awesome. So
Good
Roger,
stuff.
we loved having you on the show, Roger. It's been awesome. Your insight is always so wonderful. And I love your willingness to share your opinions, even though they may not be popular. I love it. I mean, I'm not saying that they weren't popular. I'm not saying they were unpopular opinions today. I'm just saying I love Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at the MotUS Edge and check out our shorts, like and comment. We love to hear from you. Give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, X, and Twitter at Join MotUS. Follow our show wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you like what we're doing and you want to hear more, leave us a comment and tell all of your friends. And hey, maybe we'll read it on the show. If you're a gym owner, be sure to join the movement and sign up for MotUS today. Thank you all so much for listening. We're excited for you to have the MotUS Edge.
Thanks, guys. Everybody have a great day.